My father stood in the doorway with one hand on the frame and the other gripping a folded bank statement. His face was red with anger, and his voice echoed through the house. "Return the $40,000 your son took or stay out," he said. Behind him stood my younger sister, Melissa, crossing her arms with a smug smile. "My family agrees," she added. "You raised him. You pay for his mistakes." For a moment, I simply stared at them. The accusation sounded absurd. My son Ethan was 23 years old. He lived 3 states away, worked as a software engineer, and hadn't visited my parents in nearly a year. Yet somehow they had convinced themselves he had stolen $40,000 from them. "Dad," I said calmly, "Ethan didn't take your money." "He did," Melissa snapped. "The money disappeared after he visited last summer." I almost laughed. "Last summer? You're accusing him based on something that happened 10 months ago." My father shoved the statement toward me. $40,000 vanished from my investment account. The bank couldn't explain it. Melissa says Ethan knew computers and probably hacked something. I blinked. That was their evidence. Not proof. Not records. Not witnesses. Just Melissa's theory. I looked at my sister. "Did you tell him that?" She lifted her chin. Someone had to. Suddenly everything made sense. Melissa had been asking my parents for money for years. Failed business ideas. Credit card debt. Luxury vacations she couldn't afford. Dad had always rescued her. But lately he'd begun saying no. And now $40,000 had disappeared. I took a slow breath. "Fine," I said. "Let's find out the truth." My father frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I already know Ethan didn't take your money." Melissa's confidence flickered. "Then prove it." "Gladly." I pulled out my phone and opened an email. 3 weeks earlier, Ethan had called me after learning about the accusations through a cousin. Instead of getting angry, he'd hired a forensic accountant. The accountant had traced every transaction connected to Dad's account. Every single one. I handed the phone to my father. His eyes moved across the screen. Then they widened. The report showed the missing money had not been hacked or stolen. It had been transferred in 8 separate transactions. All 8 transfers went to the same account. Melissa's account. The color drained from my sister's face. "That's impossible," she whispered. The report included dates, account numbers, and authorization records. Each transfer required a verification code sent directly to Dad's phone. Dad looked confused. "I never approved those." The accountant had anticipated that question. Further down the report was another finding. Melissa had been listed as an authorized user years earlier when Dad underwent surgery. Her access had never been removed. She didn't need to hack anything. She simply moved the money herself. Silence filled the porch. Dad slowly turned toward her. "Melissa." Tears instantly appeared in her eyes. "I was going to pay it back." "How much?" I asked. She said nothing. Dad's hands began shaking. "You blamed Ethan." I panicked, she whispered. "You accused your nephew of being a thief." Melissa looked at the ground. Dad stared at her for several seconds before looking back at me. The anger that had greeted me at the door was gone. Only shame remained. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "You owe Ethan one." He nodded. That evening, Dad called Ethan personally. I listened as he admitted everything. No excuses. No conditions. Just a grandfather apologizing to a grandson he had wrongly accused. Weeks later, Melissa signed a repayment agreement and sold several expensive assets to begin returning the money. As for Dad, he changed something even more important. He stopped believing accusations without evidence. The next time family drama appeared, he asked for facts before choosing sides. And every time I visit now, I remember that afternoon. The day my father stood in the doorway and told me to stay out. The same doorway where, less than an hour later, he stepped aside, opened it wide, and said the words that mattered most. You were right. Come inside.